Hi, this is Wes Ferguson. I'm a celebrity trainer in Los Angeles. You're listening to my interview with Elaine Goodman for Gogoodman.com.au.
Where did the name Westifer come from? It's kind of a mix between Wesley and Christopher. It's a unique name, so where did that come from?
You know, what's funny is it's actually a nickname. And believe it or not, a friend of mine had a dream where I was coming out with my own signature fragrance. And the dream was basically like this commercial. And I would just pop on screen and be like, Westifer. And I just thought it was so funny and ridiculous that I just kind of adopted it as a nickname. And a lot of people call me that now, so...
It's a good story. Yeah, because you think of, like, the only other one I can kind of relate it to is, like, Will Smith. You think his name's William, but it's actually Willard, and that's kind of a bit of a different name. So Westifer, when I've heard people call you Wes, you automatically think Wesley. But, yeah, no, then that just comes out of left field, so...
No, it's just a fun nickname. I kind of adopted it. I love, it was so, like you said, out of left field. It was kind of silly and fun, but... yeah, I love it. So,
do you have any passport issues with it?
No passport issues. I've been able to travel just fine.
So, is it your legal name, or it's still just a nickname?
It's a nickname.
Okay, right.
But Wes is my legal name.
Yeah,
so that's where it came from.
Ever since you were young, you've trained in martial arts, yoga, dance, weights, and various sports. Which one of these challenged you the most?
I would say, when I was younger, I would say it was probably the boxing and kickboxing. That's very difficult as a child. It taught me a lot, but it was also very difficult just, emotionally you either win or you lose. So learning at 7, 8 years old that you either win or you lose in the ring can be, just psychologically kind of a hard lesson. So that was always hard for me. Currently, in my training, probably the most physically challenging thing for me is anything that has to do with running or long, steady cardio, just because I have a few kind of recurring injuries with my knee and my back and things like that. So, physically you have to just work around those things. But, psychologically and emotionally working around other things is a very different approach. Physically, you can just take it a little bit lighter or you can wrap your knee that day. But psychologically, when you're intimidated by an opponent or you're scared to get hit or something like that, you have to put yourself in the right mental state to allow that fear to wash over you and not take you over.
7 years old is pretty, I'm assuming, early to start getting involved in all those areas of fitness. Were you passionate about all of them, or did your parents have a big input?
My parents definitely were a big influence. My father was really into martial arts, and that's where that all started. I think I have a picture when I was about 5, when I had my first pair of boxing gloves. And yes, believe it or not, they do make boxing gloves for 5-year-olds.
Well, they do make they make shoes for 1-year-olds. So
yeah, exactly. So so they were a big influence in that regard. They always wanted us to be healthy, and we always had to participate in at least one sport per season. We were kind of I don't want to say oddballs, but I grew up in a very, very small town, and my parents we were the only house that had a gym inside the house. We had one room that was totally dedicated to gym equipment, treadmills, free weights, leg machines, all that stuff. So they were very passionate about it and instilled that from a very young age. Sometimes I resisted it, especially knowing that, your friends down the street didn't have to work out or do anything like that if they didn't want to. But what you realize, or at least what I realized later on, was that gave me such an incredible foundation for not only just what I do now, but really staying healthy, staying fit, staying young, feeling good, being active. Having that background has been such a blessing. There are many clients that I work with who have had very little to no experience, either playing sports or weight training or really anything. And it takes a lot more work with them because they don't have a lot of body awareness. They may have flexibility or strength issues. So having that background has definitely been a major, major advantage for me.
As a teenager, you started coaching gymnastics. Can I assume you were a pretty confident kid?
Yes. Yeah, that was right around when I was about 16. I did that when I was like 16, 17, 18. So I'd had a lot of confidence because gymnastics was something I was very good at. I was always very flexible. And until I kind of had that growth spurt around 15, I was able to do a lot of gymnastics. Once I kind of, I guess, grew out of it to a degree. I'm 6'1", so that doesn't make much of a gymnast. Most gymnasts are very, very short, people. They're very compact, let's say, and but I still loved it, and I just had the opportunity just through the local YMCA to teach some classes, and I started teaching kids from kindergarten around 5 years old up to about 12 years old. At 5, of course, you're just learning some of the basics, but by the time you're 12, that becomes an advanced level gymnast. So you're dealing with a very skilled set of activities. So you have to not only have confidence in what you're doing, but you also have to know and understand how the body is moving and how you can correctly spot someone in order to do some of the things that they do, like a back tuck or something like that, where if you don't catch them correctly and they are not going to land right, that could obviously lead to an injury. So you have to not only believe in yourself, but you have to understand the mechanics of what's going on as well.
When and why did you move to Los Angeles? Where were you based, first of all, and when and why did you move to Los Angeles?
I grew up and was raised in Ohio. My family and my mom and dad are still there. So I came out here to L.A., one, to get away from those bitter, cold winters. I cannot tell you how cold it gets in Ohio during the winter. And snow, so much snow. And I was like, man, I need to get out of here, go somewhere warm. So I moved to LA, where the weather is usually bright and sunny and nice and all that stuff. And I also had a desire to, be part of, kind of that LA Hollywood scene, all the celebrities and movie stars and all that stuff. So it was just kind of a combination of different things that brought me out here. And certainly nothing against my upbringing, but you'll find a lot of people, either New York or LA, where they've come from the Midwest. And basically it's as far away as you can get without having to cross the ocean. So you're able to create an entirely different life for yourself, which is exactly what I was looking for.
The only thing I know about Ohio is the Drew Carey show, and whenever you see the Christmas episodes, it looks terribly freezing. They're all rugged up in the office there. So yeah, I can only imagine.
It is so cold. I mean, let me tell you, there were actually, when I first moved out here, I would only go back and visit in the summer because I knew it would be warm. And there was one year where finally my whole family was just like, you need to come out for Christmas. We miss you during the holidays. So I flew out. It was, I don't know, late December. And I stepped off the plane. And even just from the plane to the terminal, I started feeling like, I thought I was having something was going on with my lungs. I'm like, I can't breathe, and my lungs feel so tight. What's wrong with me? I was like, oh, that's cold air that you're breathing in. It was so cold. Just my lungs just felt like they were about to explode, and it literally took me about 30 seconds to figure out what was wrong with me, and it was just breathing that horribly cold air.
I read you fell into the LA party culture. What enthralled you about the Los Angeles lifestyle?
There were definitely some years during my 20s where I fell into the party scene. It's very easy to do. Out here the attitude is very casual towards recreational drugs and things like that. And part of what I wrote about in my book that's out now on Amazon is that it was just easy to fall into, and it's kind of a trapping where, you're having fun, everyone is doing these things, and you're kind of, you're on the ride of your life. And then you kind of look back and realize how much time has gone by, and you haven't really accomplished anything. And I, for myself, just really discovered that I wasn't really living my true life. I was kind of on this, deviant path, if you will, fun, but wasn't really getting me anywhere. There's nowhere at the end of that road. So I had to just reevaluate and decide that wasn't the path I wanted to go down. That there was something more that I could do with my life.
I've heard people say that LA is like the boulevard of broken dreams, like Green Day said. Is that culture a big reason for that?
I think that could be part of it. Definitely people who get caught up in that scene, going out all the time, trying to be seen or this or that. It derails you from what your real goal was. And then after you've been out here for a number of years and you realize, God, I haven't done anything that I set out to do, I think that can send people into a real tailspin. You have that moment where you're like, why am I even here? Why did I leave my family? Why did I move thousands of miles away from everyone I know if I'm not going to actually do the things I've set out to do? So LA can be very crushing in that way. And also, LA is a town of severe judgment one way or the other, especially if you're trying to get in the entertainment industry. I mean, my gosh, you're being judged from one moment to the next. You fit this role, you don't fit this role, you don't look the part, you need to look this way. It's if you don't have a real strong center, and if you don't know who you are, those criticisms can really mess with your head.
What shocked you about the party culture in LA? We've talked about what enthralled you and what attracted you to it. Did any aspect of it, kind of, I guess, shock you or hit you a little harder than you expected? Coming over from, like you said, cold, family-orientated Ohio?
I would say just the casualness at which people do it. Also the frequency and the way people kind of mix different things. It's such a, like I said, just very casual way of going about it and not really thinking about what the ramifications might be. I've had people that I knew along the way who've had overdoses on things like that where, they're just so enthralled with this lifestyle that they're not thinking about what they're really doing to themselves and the effect that it really has. And it also leads to some unhealthy behaviors as well. So I think for myself, I consider myself really, really lucky that I was always able to stay somewhat in control of myself. I'm, 100% healthy, and I know a lot of people didn't make it out that way. So that's, and I think too, what surprises me is I know that a lot of those people are still doing it. They're still in that party scene. They're still part of that lifestyle, where it doesn't matter how long ago you stepped out of it. You could find the same people doing the same thing right now, which is really shocking to me. I mean, you'd think after a couple of years it would get boring, but not so much.
Well, you probably have school friends like that are still trying to relive the glory days of high school. It's the same in any way you grow up.
I suppose, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and I know I kind of have that. Well, I'm only almost 25, and I still know people from when I went to high school that are still going, because I went to school in the country and in the city, and I know people that are still, like, go to the pub every Saturday night and things like that, because that's the country lifestyle. But, yeah, so that kind of, there's kind of a relation between that kind of living, trying to relive your youth for as long as you can.
I could see that for sure. I mean, I guess you're just delaying the inevitable when you have to actually grow up a little bit.
Exactly. It's fun growing up sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, aside from all the responsibility and financial burdens, being an adult is awesome.
Yeah. What was the turning point that made you realize you had to rediscover your passion for fitness? Was there a particular moment? I mean, we mentioned before that you were a pretty confident teenager. Was losing confidence one of those things that kind of made your head prick up and that you realized you were stuck in this, I guess, rut?
That's a really good observation. Well, yeah, I was at a point where I felt very insecure about myself, and not just for myself, but there was a part of me that was a little embarrassed to go back home and visit my family, because I knew they would be able to tell something wasn't right. And that to me was the biggest factor, just because my family has been so incredibly loving and supportive and all of that. To feel as though I was letting them down in some way was really the wake-up call, where I decided to kind of put down the pipe and get myself sober.
Metaphorically, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. Well, a little bit of that, but yeah. So that was really a big factor for me. It was realizing that. I want my family to be proud of me. I want them to, and they are, and they're aware of some of the things that I went through. We've spoken about it, but I just didn't want to disappoint them, and that ultimately led to making some really big changes.
So being kind of being passionate about fitness through your teenage years, was this realization more of a mental setback rather than a physical setback? Did you still keep up your fitness while you were going through this?
I'm sorry?
Did you still keep up your fitness and your martial arts while you were going through the LA lifestyle? No, not really. I was partying. I was probably, like I said, I'm 6'1", so at the time I was maybe 130 pounds, rail thin, eating, very poorly when I ate. So definitely wasn't in a very good physical shape at the time. But luckily, because of, my past, I knew how to get back into it, and I was definitely able to, pack on. I mean, now I'm like 170, definitely packed on some muscle and all of that. So having that background was a huge, huge help, because I had really abandoned all of those things during those party years. Well, you can laugh about it now.
Well, yeah, it's something, and actually, now I can, but there were many years where it was something I was embarrassed about or felt kind of ashamed of. But that's part of why I published my book, is it tells part of my story as far as, falling into the party lifestyle and getting back into fitness. And it details a month-long plan to reach really any goal you might have. But part of the story is definitely my own journey. And it took me a while to be comfortable enough to really put that out there and make that public. Like I said, my family is aware of it to a degree, and my close friends, but really just putting that out there for the whole world to consume was very daunting. But at some point last year, I realized I really wanted to publish the book, and that although that may have been something I have gone through and not particularly proud of, there's no real reason to be ashamed of the past if you have been able to learn from it and grow from it. So if you're still repeating the same mistakes, then I definitely would probably be ashamed of your past. But if you're on a new course, then there's no reason to kind of live this life of shame. It is what it is. It happened, and now I can kind of look back at it and laugh it off, because there's no real shame attached to it for me anymore.
There's a couple more questions I have about coming out of this lifestyle, and then we'll get onto your book and your business. But one thing from doing interviews for the past I've been doing this maybe 8-9 years, and one thing I've learned about people's lifestyles is that they can go from extremity to extremity. Reading up on you, it kind of seems that you were a bit extreme about fitness as a kid going through your teenage years. You did all those things: martial arts, yoga, dance, weights, sports, and all the different kinds of things. And then when I read about you, you went into the extreme of that LA lifestyle. Do you think that having such an extreme fitness base from a kid and growing up in such an extremely fitness-orientated household kind of was a factor to you letting go completely when you moved to LA?
I don't know, because my parents weren't, excessively strict or anything like that. So I don't necessarily feel as though I was rebelling against them in any way. But I do definitely have a kind of all-out personality. And I would actually say that a lot of fitness people are like that. If they weren't in fitness and they weren't killing it with their workouts and they weren't living this, kind of extreme lifestyle, they could very well be on the other side of it, where they're going out and, boozing it up or, whatever. So it's kind of, you're putting that energy, you're channeling it somewhere. So it's either all out in one direction or all out in the other. And for myself, certainly, and I think for a lot of fitness people, it's the same. We have that drive. It's an extreme drive, and we have to channel that energy some way.
Was it hard to give up that lifestyle?
Not at all.
No?
No. It was once I realized where I was at and what I needed to do, I never had a relapse. I never did it again.
So what was the process in getting out of the slump and getting your life back on track? Was it a quick process or was it gradual?
It probably took me a good year to really get where I felt back to right. Getting back into a normal routine where, you're eating right, you're going to the gym, you're doing these things. And it like I said, it was a process. It took me a good year, but it was something that you just take step by step, and which is exactly what is kind of outlined in the book, is you can't make all those changes at once. It is impossible. And I think a lot of us we have a particular vision of who we are or who we want to be. But you don't just wake up as that person. It takes time, it takes dedication, and it takes a lot of steps along the way to get where you want to go. for sure. For me, it really was having a support group, having a family that's very supportive, having friends that were supportive. Once I kind of got back into the gym, I had a gym buddy, and I had, so it was just a matter of, again, just turning that energy down the right road.
And now you've come. Well, how long ago did you feel like you got back on the right track? How long have you been on the right? Have you been going for?
Oh, I would say for a good 10 years.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay, cool. So
yeah.
Over the last 10 years, you've come a long way. You've invented your own fitness style. You've released an ebook, which we'll talk a bit about shortly. You've done TV appearances. Firstly, let's start with Hybrid Fit. Tell me a bit about Hybrid Fit, because it involves a bit of everything. I'm trying to place. I know a little bit about fitness. I'm trying to figure out how you mix all these different aspects together.
Sure. Well, it really depends, because the idea was that, especially in the fitness world, you see people with a product or a particular style of workout where they're like, this is for everyone. But it really isn't. There's really no one discipline that is going to work for everyone.
Except walking.
Walking's good. So what I wanted to do was be able to create a platform where it tapped into a lot of different disciplines. And it really works with people because for most people, they've had some experience doing something. Most people, maybe they've done yoga, maybe they've taken a dance class or two, maybe they've ran track, maybe there's somewhere in there you can connect with them, or maybe there's something that they like to do, or that they've always wanted to do. So taking all of these different disciplines and just putting them in a blender and then kind of pulling out these different tricks, one, it makes people feel as though they are constantly challenged with something new. And two, it actually taps into something that they may actually enjoy doing or that they have some experience doing. And that puts them in this comfortable zone. They're like, oh, yeah, I know how to do this. And it helps keep them motivated. If you're throwing too much new stuff at someone, it becomes completely overwhelming. They feel as though they're too much of a beginner. People want to feel confident in themselves. So if they go through a workout where they feel completely lost, they're not going to connect to that on any level. So I really tried to create something that no matter who you are or what experience you may have had, something in there, something we do, is going to speak to you.
So what is Hybrid Fit? Say I was going to come in to do a Hybrid Fit class, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's an hour-long class. I've just finished work. What can I expect from Hybrid Fit?
Well, that's something that I do with my personal clients, so it would really depend on what your specific goals were. If most guys want to build up their arms and chest. That's about the only thing they care about. So we would obviously start with some strength training and work on that. But I would definitely throw in some martial arts, maybe some kickboxing. Both guys and gals like that because it kind of makes you feel like kind of tough and cool and
empowered.
And then you've got to throw in a little bit of cardio. You got to mix it up with some cardio, and then it's just a matter of really tapping into that individual, finding what strengths they have and what weaknesses they have. So you play off the strengths, stuff that they're good at. You really pile it on with stuff that they're good at. Then you introduce something maybe that they're not so good at. Then you go right back to something that they're good at. So it gives them the opportunity to be challenged, but also come out of it at the end being like, yeah, I crushed that. I'm awesome. So it really does, from person to person, from client to client, it changes every session.
Right, so you've got a list of probably 7 or 8 things that are involved in hybrid fit, but it depends on the person, what they prefer and what you think they're going to be good at and what you think is going to challenge them. You put a workout together based on those 7 or 8 different aspects.
Yeah, exactly,
Right.
exactly. And when I kind of I do some boot camps and things like that. So again, that just runs the whole gambit. We do a light warm up, which probably would remind you of like a dance warm up. Then we would move into like some abs that might remind you of kind of an aerobics class. Then we move on to some strength training that might remind you of a boot camp. Then we would move on. So you're just exactly like you said, kind of filing through those different disciplines, and ultimately, at the end of the session, you've gone through pretty much every physical torture that I can throw at you.
Now, moving on to the media side of things, this is something I'm interested in, being in the media. What's the transition from being a personal trainer in the suburbs and running your own little business, or in the city running your own little business, to gaining a profile, getting media attention, and having your opinions broadcast naturally? Because that's something that's not really done in Australia. Sure, we have our own version of The Biggest Loser, but outside of that, personal trainers and fitness instructors aren't really media-savvy people.
Mm-hmm. I think for myself, it helped having that experience, knowing what goes into an interview, understanding the process, and the other research that you have to do. Those are things that actually really help me when now that I'm on the other side of it. One of the things that I always enjoyed working with the media, I love writing, obviously, but I always just enjoyed the conversation and really being able to tap into someone and find out what their story is. But I like being on the other side of it because as a reporter, as I'm sure you know, you're always going after the story, which is cool because you get to talk to different people and attend different events and all of that. On the other side of it, as I am now, though, you're basically the go-to person. You're the expert. Oh, so and so lost a bunch of weight. Ooh, we better call up Wes and see how they did it. Or so it just changes the experience. And really, for me, it's something I've always really enjoyed doing. Even when I was reporting, I was still doing on-camera work. I had my own show that I wrote, produced, and hosted for a while. So I always enjoyed the public, kind of persona aspect of it, getting on that red carpet with the microphone or doing a live event or really being there. And really it's just a matter of now I'm just on the other side of the rope. So instead of being the one asking the questions, I'm just on the other side of the rope answering the questions.
So how did you become that, as you said, go-to person? What's that process? Do they come to you or do you go to them?
I think it's a mixed bag. For me, it's because of my experience having, so many acquaintances who are involved in the media in some way, who are either reporters or producers or management or PR or whatever. They all knew kind of my expertise, and once I had made the transition to being a fitness professional, then they reached out to me either for diet tips or, like I said, when a celebrity loses weight or something. Right now people are kind of contacting me because Daniel Radcliffe, I guess, Italian Vanity Fair, has published some pics where he's looking really muscular. So I'm already getting people to reach out and talk about that. So it's really just, but it's also reaching out, trying to find outlets that may need a fitness expert or something like that. So it's a learning process, really. It's you figure out kind of what your niche is, what you're good at, what your voice is, and then you just find the right places to try to plug yourself in there.
You're also involved in diabetes awareness. You've released an ebook called Better by 30, which you can talk a little bit about now, and you're producing fitness videos. How far do you see yourself going? Are you someone that could manage your own empire?
Well, on a small scale, I think I am managing my own little empire. And it's something that I definitely enjoy doing. And the reason why is, on a one-to-one basis, I get to help people identify and reach their goals, which is hugely satisfying. I mean, I cannot tell you what it's like to work with the mother of two who over the course of a year loses 65 pounds, or to work with someone who, is able to fit back into the jeans they wore in high school. Or, that is so amazing to be part of that process, to be part of that journey, and to be a positive influence is the best part of my job. As a nationally recognized, fitness persona or whatever
instructor,
that strange celebrity status. You're able to take that. I'm finding that I'm able to take that message and just deliver it to a much wider audience, which is part of the reason for releasing the book as well. As much as I love working one-on-one, there's only so much time in the day. So the ability to reach out and hopefully be that positive influence for other people to help them reach their goals, maybe never even meeting them or interacting with them, but just being able to put things out there like a fitness video or a book or what have you, and have people utilize that is just taking the one-on-one message and making it much, much bigger, which is, of course, very rewarding as well.
Naturally, all the media attention leads to some high-profile clients. Who has surprised you when they've walked through your doors?
Oh, gosh. Well, some of my clients are confidential, and some reasons for that. One, I of course respect their privacy. Two, I would like to establish myself based on my own credentials rather than someone else's name. But there are some really fun clients that I've had who are certainly, I guess I would consider them, friendly at this point, or they've posted on Twitter about it or whatever. So, I don't know if you guys get the MTV's Awkward out there, but Monty Gear from Awkward, I've worked with him, and he's super fun, like really sweet kid, and someone who, it's always so interesting when you see someone on TV or you know that they have this celebrity status, and then he's just the most normal kid, just totally cool, no attitude, no fanfare, no, just such a sweet guy, and I love seeing that. Another client that I've really enjoyed working with is a Nickelodeon star. Her name is Melissa Karkashi, and she's exactly the same way. Someone she is so beautiful and has these legions of fans who follow her show, and yet in person she is just so down to earth, so sweet, and very personable and very real. You can connect, we've really connected. So for me, the biggest surprise is always someone who's, normal. and it does happen. So that's always really nice when you feel like you're actually tapping into someone and getting to know them as a person and getting away from whatever persona they might have on TV or in the movies.
And before we finish up, give us a little bit of a synopsis about Better by 30.
Absolutely. So Better by 30 is a guide to a new you in 30 days. It is a month-long self-improvement plan. Each chapter is broken down day by day. So on day 1, you read chapter 1. Day 2, you read chapter 2, etc. Each chapter has a motivational quote by someone who, far smarter than myself. Each chapter has a little bit of my story, just how I made the transition from, party boy to, fitness guru. And each chapter also has a mission at the end. So once you read that day's chapter, you have a mission. And your goal, obviously, is to complete that mission, and that is what takes you through to the next step.
Okay, that's pretty cool. That's a very, very original idea.
Well, and it isn't just a fitness book. It's not a diet book. In fact, there's some information about, healthy eating and fitness, but really the book could be used for numerous goals, whether it's career-wise, financially, whatever that might be. The book is more about identifying what your goals are and showing you what steps you can take to reach those goals. So obviously, if it's health and fitness, awesome. But if it's something else, it's still something that is relatable through the book. You're going to get something out of it. So, for example, let's just say it's career-wise. You will definitely be able to use the book to push yourself forward in your career. So it's meant as a guide really for any goals that you might have. Obviously, being a personal trainer, working with celebrities in LA, the clothes is the most relatable thing to me is the health and fitness aspect, but it's meant for anyone that has really any goals that they want to reach. So I think breaking it down day by day really helps. It's a short read. Each chapter is maybe a page or two. It's just small information bites. And I found that that's the best way to get people's attention because, we all have short attention spans. And you ramble on too long, you're going to lose your audience. So I tried to make it short and sweet. And I think that sticks with people a little more.
What's your favorite quote of all time?
Oh, gosh. Well, one of my favorite quotes of all time is an unknown quote. This actually doesn't appear in the book, but one of my, this might show you my sense of humor, but it's an unknown quote, and it says, "Don't worry about people stealing your ideas. If your ideas are any good, you'll have to ram them down people's throats."
So it's good if people take them. That's all right. Mine probably shows my young age a little bit. It's by one of my idols, Will Smith, and there's no reason to have a plan B because it distracts from plan A.
I like that. Maybe I'll use that in my next book.
Done. Well, yeah, don't give me credit because you'll find me. That might be good. Anyway, where can people find you?
People can find me on the web at wesferguson.com. That's my website. I offer a free monthly newsletter, so they can sign up for the newsletter. They'll get a workout, a recipe, some fitness news, free once a month. And that's a great way for people really anywhere to connect with me. People can obviously find my book on Amazon.com. And if you're in Los Angeles, you can book a session with me in person. I also teach classes at a fitness studio called Sweat Garage, and I'm there about 8 times a week. So many ways you can connect with me.
And what about social media? That's all on your website?
Oh, yes. So all my
the most important thing, Wes.
Follow me on Twitter. Huh?
That's the most important thing.
I know. Yeah, Twitter, you can find me at Westifer. And that's really where I first started using that nickname, was on Twitter. And you can find me on Instagram at the Westifer, because some bitch stole my name. And I'm also on Snapchat as the Westifer as well. I don't really use Snapchat that much, so hopefully you'll connect with me on Twitter or Instagram, and I'll be able to follow you back.
Wes, thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you. A really interesting story, and I look forward to watching your progress and seeing how far you can go.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.